Hey, welcome to Crossroads Consulting, where we help companies outsource, grow, and protect their assets. Jeff and Billy Rhodes here. Today, we're going to talk about the cost and the risk of a bad hire. And I'm sure many of you out there, if you've hired employees, you have dealt with this. I certainly know that I have in my days of managing employees.
Well, yeah. I mean, think of it. It's a tight job market in most industries, and oftentimes um, businesses they hire somebody just to fill the position. But you know what? It's a right to work state here in Florida. I've got 90 days, right, to make a
Yeah,
decision.
yeah, yeah.
If it doesn't work out, I'll just move on with it. But it doesn't really work that way. I mean, there's some strings attached. Every time you hire somebody, every time they set foot in your business or on your job site, there's some risk there.
Yeah.
There's some strings attached. So
Well, and the costs are ridiculous. I mean, studies show that it's 30% of an employee's first year salary. All right. I mean, that's a lot. And the average is like 17,500 to hire a new employee. The cost of the implementation, the training, getting them to where they're producing, and a lot of our conversations with some of these experts, we talk about the revenue per employee that they generate for you, right? So think about, based on the industry you're in, how fast can you get somebody up to speed? A restaurant, you bring in a new cook, they need to learn the menu, they need to learn, the crew they're working with. You got to get comfortable with that. If it's manufacturing, they might have industry experience, but not your processes and everything. So it takes time and money to hire an employee.
man, you got to look at also. You might have a good candidate, but do they integrate with your culture? There's 4 or 5 generations in the workplace
Yeah.
now. That's an important consideration. Okay, this person has a lot of skills. They have a lot of technical aspects, but you know what? I don't know if they're a team player. I don't know if they work well with teams. Maybe they don't work well when there's deadlines. Maybe you need them to adhere to KPIs. Well, maybe uh, they don't work well
Yeah.
in
And
that
I mean,
environment.
we worked for big corporations and we did the personality
That's right.
assessments and we did all of that stuff. Not that I'm knocking those because they have a place in the hiring process, but there are people out there that are great test takers. They're great interviewers. I used to joke around with my upper management all the time saying, listen, you need to give me a golf budget because I would love taking people out on the golf course for 4 hours, feed them some beers. You get to know a lot about these people when you spend that much time with them, right? So private small companies, you can actually do that, man. If you're hiring a key person, you can say, hey, why don't you come golf with me? Let's get to know each other here. Do this process. Something
Yeah.
like that because it is very costly. I got a story. Unless you have a comment on that, go
No,
ahead.
I was just going to say that, there are certain industries where turnover is huge. Other industries, the turnover is a little bit more stable. The work is a little bit more technical, a little bit more knowledge based. Those are the hires where I think you need to take a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
time, where you
Mm-hmm.
need to do some interviewing up front, but also verify the resume. I mean, how many times have you seen a resume that's embellished? I remember making some hires myself in the PEO world, and I looked at some of these resumes that looked really, really good, but I'm thinking, man, you changed jobs 5 times. That to me was a red flag right
Yeah.
there. You
Yeah.
only spent a year most of the time, but
All right. Well, I got
all
one
right,
for you. I was working at Staff Leasing. Before we went public with them, and I had this young gentleman walk in, hand me his resume. He's from ADP, right? And
yeah,
and and we both spent time at ADP. Great company.
Yeah.
The unbelievable training program, right? So I'm looking at this guy's resume, multiple years with ADP, right?
Yeah.
President's Club member.
Been there, yeah.
And after like 4 or 5 years, he's now looking for another position. And he had made club the prior year. So I asked him, like, why? And he goes, yeah, just with the management and everything, it's just not working out, So you do your background checks, and by law, I can't bash an employee. I can maybe say I probably would not hire that employee again. But you're really not going to get a whole lot out on these reference checks. I mean, not the background checks. But anyways, I brought this guy in. He was smart. He started off, really good. And then after about 6 months, it just got weird. Like I'd walk in, he'd be at his cubicle on the phone with his shoes off, feet up on the desk. And I'm like, it just got really weird. And then he had this thing where he was a health nut, and he would have his like protein shake, his water, and his nut mix or whatever. And everything was about that. I mean, he would bring them in on appointments and stuff. It's like, all right, man, you got to leave that stuff outside.
Wow.
Things just started to steamroll, and the weirder he got, the less production he brought in. Ultimately, we had to get rid of him. But on the surface, I thought this dude was awesome, and he interviewed well, and he had this great resume, and you just don't know. But I guarantee you, if I took the guy golfing, fed him some beers, I would have learned a lot about him.
Yeah, number one, he wouldn't have drank any beer. But the cost of a bad hire can be excessive. So it is in the business's best interest to do as much as you can on the front end to see if this particular employee, number one, they have the qualifications, they have the skill sets, they have the knowledge sets. But do they fit into your culture? Do they fit into your team? Do they fit into your KPIs? Look, a lot of times too, employees leave because of managers. I've heard that a lot. But, the cost of a bad hire, there's so many regulations, there's so much compliance, there's so many do's and don'ts in business today. There's a lot of risks involved, especially from the HR side. So, I mean, yes, recruiters help, but the recruiters also want to put a body in a position because that's how they get paid. We do a lot of work with PEOs, and a lot of times the PEO, they have HR people who will help you on the hiring side. They can do the assessment test. They can help you with certain questions to ask employees, what questions you should ask, what questions you should not ask, and what you should do or can't do with the information that you get from prospective employees. But there's certainly risk in once you hire somebody. It is important to document things if it starts to go sideways. If this relationship starts to go sideways, very important that you document, dot the I's, cross the T's, because if a separation, maybe for cause separation, right? If you've got your I's dotted, T's crossed, a for cause separation may not hurt you, whereas a for cause termination and you have no documentation, that's opening a door for wrongful discharge, maybe worse. Right?
So here's a few things. I took some notes on how to avoid bad hires. Thorough screening process with multiple interviews, right? Don't just interview them yourself. Bring in other people. Maybe send them out on a field ride. See how they get along with the team, because team culture is going to be very important, okay? In-depth reference checks. That's a very valuable part. Even though sometimes we're limited on what we can say, it'll at least verify that they actually worked there, they produced, and would you hire them again? Yes. Skills assessments to evaluate technical or soft skills, that's definitely a must. Clear job descriptions outlining expectations.
Ooh.
I think that's most important that a lot of business owners and managers don't do. Like, they want to hire this person, but the clear expectations and what they need them to do, and then what they're going to do for the next 90 days. Like,
You know,
have a plan for these people.
Good point. Are you going to work with a team? Do you have
Yeah.
deadlines that you have to meet? Do you have to perform certain job functions that have a time limit? Because everything's a domino effect if the time element is missed.
Yep. Yep. And then lastly is, are they a cultural fit evaluation during the hire process? One bad cancer in your office, in your company, will really cause a lot of conflict, cause you to lose a lot of money. So it's very important to be very thorough with your hiring practices. But yeah, give us a call if you have any questions. There's all kinds of data out there. We can definitely help you out. And we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Once again, we are Crossroads Consulting. I'm Jeff. He's Billy. We're available to talk to you about any issues that come up with regards to your business. Our business model is to help you find solutions. There's no cost, there's no obligation to talk to us. You've seen some of the interviews that we've done. We have a lot of resources that we can bring to the table. We welcome you the opportunity to talk to you about your business and some of the challenges that you're facing now. We'll do our best to find the solutions. Again, there's no cost, no obligation.